All right, let's see Daniel Barnes right now. We are going to talk about Ethiopian jazz and his incredible career. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
All right.
Hey.
So, Mr. Barnes, Daniel Barnes. I better call you Daniel Barnes because you come from a long lines of Barneses who are famous.
True.
I want to talk about this month for you, and then I want to talk about your history.
Okay.
This month, you have been insanely busy. In the month of February, now I know it's becoming March now, and we're going to talk about your world music band, but March, you were traveling around with Joe Seeley.
Yes.
Africville Stories.
Yes. Yes.
How long have you been playing with that? Well, first of all, with Joe Seeley, and secondly, with doing the Africville
Stories. Yeah, well, okay, so with Joe, my gosh, I got hired into Joe's band, like I hate to say it, but 30 years ago, okay? It's been that long. And I've been playing with him since then, and in '96 he recorded Africville Suite for his dad and his roots in Africville out in Halifax. So we recorded that album. I'm actually on part of that album. And been playing concerts behind that ever since, really.
Joe Seeley has been really faithful to you.
Yeah.
You have played with him, you're saying 30 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. There was a few periods where we worked separately, where he didn't hire me, he hired other people. Mm-hmm. But it sort of came back to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And all over the world with Colin Hunter and the Joe Seeley Quartet, what's a favorite memory? Where is a place you played where you went, oh, I don't know if it's going to get better than this?
With Colin and Joe, well, I mean, going to the Dominican Republic and playing in the main square for the Jazz Festival was really great. I got to meet Hidalgo Giovanni, the great conga player. He just kind of walked in the tent, talked to him a bit, and that was a great memory. But also, like Montreal Jazz Festival, it was one of the largest crowds I've played for. Colin and Joe, we played for 25,000 people on the main stage.
Yeah,
it didn't hurt.
The entire downtown is at your feet, literally, right?
Yeah,
it's an amazing festival.
Yeah, that was super nice.
Yeah. And so Joe Seeley, Paul Novotny, Allison Young on sax, and you on drums.
That's right.
How do you describe that to people when you're trying to tell them that they got to come out and see you guys play?
Well, that's like classic jazz and vintage pop. That's the way I like to talk about it, because it's Frank Sinatra, it's Nat King Cole. It's that era of stuff.
Right, so it was when jazz was actually popular music.
Precisely.
Right. Yeah. So you did with the Joe Seeley stuff. You played with Colin Hunter recently. You just played with Addie Braun.
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's a different style then. Now you're playing cabaret and almost classical and jazz all kind of together.
That's right, yeah. She's very she does her Doris Day material. She does, and she has a German show. She does cabaret, German cabaret stuff. It's all like sort of towards those 2030s kind of influenced jazz.
And then you also were in Mexico with Richard Underhill for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I know, it's been a good month, eh?
Well, that's an insane amount of work in 1 month.
Yeah, well, that was so much fun. That's our oh man, I've been down there 13 years at that festival. It's an awful lot of fun down there. Richard and the gang, this year was Attila Fiash on piano, Roberto Alcampinti on bass, and Heather Lockhart on vocals. Mm-hmm. And we had a blast playing the concerts. It's so great, of course, to go to Mexico in February for us Canadians,
At 13 years in a row?
Yeah.
That doesn't suck at all.
But it's a beautiful festival, and a lot of great chamber music and classical music going on there, too. We're the jazz section, but there's a lot of classical music.
Cool.
Really top-notch stuff.
Now, let me ask you about your family. Your father, Milton, yes. He was a renowned conductor in Canada. I remember some of this stuff. He did shows for the CBC. Yeah. He did stuff for the Niagara Symphony, which had, I think, St. Catherine's Symphony was called way back then. Yeah. And the CMC, where Phil Nimmons is part of the Canadian Music Centre.
Okay, yeah.
So did you have a lot of music all around you as a kid?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I grew up, I was attending concerts, as my mom likes to say, before I was born. Because right. She'd be in the first row or whatever, and there we'd be. And Dad made his career primarily as a writer, as a composer. So really his greatest accomplishments was writing concertos and works for some of Canada's great soloists like Leona Boyd and Joel Corrington and Rivka Golani and Erica Goodman and all sorts of people.
Yeah.
So he did a lot of writing. That was his main thing. And of course I grew up in a house of music with him. Then my parents separated when I was about 5. And my new dad, my stepfather, was also a musician. His name was Greg Gallagher, and he brought a lot of jazz into the house. He was a tenor saxophone player. And he brought all the Miles and the Coltrane and the Mingus into the household. So then we started playing together. And my first public performances were with my stepfather, Greg, at public school. So it just continued on with a lot of music.
That's fascinating, because that explains why you are a great composer. I know you've only put out 2 records, but there's some fantastic original music on there. So you're a mixture. Like, your dad was a drummer and a composer.
Yeah.
And then your stepfather was a sax player who loved jazz. So it's kind of natural that you would have all that blending in your head at the same time.
That's right. And then growing up with all the popular music of our day, right?
Yeah.
To mix in there, you know, I'm in high school, it was like B-52s and the Ramones, you know.
Right, exactly. Your mom is also a noted artist as an author.
Correct.
So did that play a part in your life? Did you know she was well known when you were little, or was she just your mom?
Well, she was just mom, but the cool thing about mom, of course, was she wasn't like ever sort of famous as an individual, as a writer. That may still be to come, because she's actually really kind of going to have a new book out in the near future, or within the next year. But as growing up, the thing was, she was a writer for, and you know this very well, get ready, the famous CBC children's television show, Mr. Dress Up.
Yep.
Yeah.
I knew that.
She wrote for the Mr. Dress Up show for the entirety of the show. So my childhood was like mom coming home from script meetings and going, you know, that Ernie, that Mr. Dress Up, da-da-da-da-da, or whatever, sort of on the ground stuff.
Right.
And I got to go in, both me and my brother.
Oh, so you got to actually hang out and see the backstage scene? Or...
Yes, and we're actually featured on 2 episodes.
Oh, I'm going to have to find those.
Couldn't find them. Looked through the CBC archives, tried to hook them up, haven't found them. The Neighborhood Music Festival, that was one of the episodes.
I'm going to help you find it. I have some deep throats in CBC, and I hope that we can find those episodes. I would love to see it. I found Mike Myers as a teenager in King of Kensington, so I can find you on Mr. Dress Up. We got to do it. So, Journey Poems, A Hero Travels Light is the book from your mom that I remember.
Yeah.
And then also Mara, a novel. Like, she's written, I don't know, 5 or 6 books, right?
Right, yeah. She got short stories, full-length fiction.
I mean, authors rarely get famous, but renowned is okay. When people actually go, I've actually read one of your books, I haven't just heard of it. That's always a good thing. And then your brother Mika. A man who is brutally comfortable on the microphone. He can teach anyone to be outgoing and sing. Everyone I know that I've sent to him says he's a great teacher.
Yeah, that's true. He really has found a great calling at that. Yeah, he's helping a lot of people sing, even people who are tone deaf, apparently. There's a famous book out or something in one fella. Anyways, yeah, he's doing a lot of great coaching. Yeah.
And of course, during the Nylons, and now doing his own thing, and also composing.
Yeah, that's right. He's a very good songwriter, singer-songwriter.
So I'm trying to get a handle on what your house was like. Did you have to be quiet with your drums while your mom was writing, or your brother was singing and your dad was playing sax? How busy was your household?
The living room was a music room. You know, there's a piano in the corner, the drums in the other corner. Mika and I would play together quite a lot as kids, you know, so we'd double up there. Luckily we were in kind of a large house. We didn't own it, but we lived in a 3-story house in downtown Toronto. Mom's still there. So Mom would have a writing room upstairs. And also she would get great sleeps when I was practicing. As a family lore, she would get great naps when I would practice. So, yeah, there was a lot of music in the house.
You didn't say that sarcastically. You actually, she slept while you drummed.
Yeah, it was a sense of comfort for her. Oh, he's home from school, he's practicing.
Then go to sleep. So
she didn't talk like that.
Right. I was going to say, that voice wasn't very good. It's almost Jonathan Winters with a wig and a dress.
Oh, gosh.
So then you came out with a Culmination and Classic Beauties. You put out a couple of albums.
Yeah.
How long did it take to compose those things?
Yeah.
When did you know you needed to make a record?
Oh, wow. Okay. So, geez, that's a good question. I mean, it was sort of always that brewing, desire to put stuff out or to write. I was always writing. And I guess it wasn't until I was about 37 I put out Culmination, and that was a culmination. It was tunes I had written either like 10 years before and stuff that was more recent. So it was kind of
Did you know that 5 O'Clock Shadow was going to be a monster jazz hit on the radio? Which is a bit sarcastic, but not totally. It got played all the time.
Exactly. I had no idea what fame, fortune would await me when I wrote that tune. I didn't know that was going to be the banger tune. Although it is first on the record, so
right.
I had some idea that it was a good place
Start
to go.
with something really strong. Exactly.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I was pleased that, of course, went.
Now, with all of the stuff you've been through, speaking of culmination, it seems to be a culmination in your recent exploits with Ethiopian Jazz, which happens to be one of my favorite types of music in the whole planet because of Mulatu Estatke. I got into it many years ago, and hearing your band makes me extremely happy. Tell me a little bit about how this band formed and about your partner.
Okay, yeah, so the band is Barnes and Woldemichael, being Gurma Woldemichael, the saxophone player, who's one of the great saxophone player Ethiopians in the world today. He's like one of the first call dudes. He grew up in Addis Ababa during the golden era, they call it, of Ethiopian jazz and pop music.
Would that be the 60s to the mid-80s?
Just the mid-70s.
Mid-70s, wow.
Yeah, until the regime change. Haile Selassie, his demise. So that was the golden era, and that's when he came up and worked professionally full-time there. So he was on the scene there. So I met Gurma long ago, essentially we started working together when we were touring in a famous Ethiopian singer's band. Okay, I was working with a singer named Aster Aweke. And she's a big singer for Ethiopians. She's a really iconic figure, superstar. And she has international tours, and I was touring with her, which is a story in itself. How did I get into that band? Yeah. I can tell you that story. Yeah. But the thing about Gurma is that we met on the road working with her. So that's how we became familiar. And then he lives here. He's lived here for a long time. And so we decided to start doing some things together. So I'm very pleased to have his voice in the band because it's real.
Authentic.
Yeah, it's real. He's there, you know.
I'm really enjoying a Jay Danley band where they have people from Cuba studying Ethiopian scales and music, and where you'll see all different cultures playing this music all together. And then, of course, with your band, you've got people from all over, but with your anchor being somebody who knows the music better than everybody else, right?
Yeah, being right there, yeah, true.
And what about your shows at Hayrut? I think more people need to know about Hayrut as a destination on the Danforth for good music, food, and some of the greatest hospitality in Toronto.
Yeah, great people, you know. It's run by real music lovers, musicians themselves, and they run this family restaurant, Hayrut Cafe, at Woodbine and Danforth. So they have music all the time now, and they serve up authentic Ethiopian food. And it's a place to go. It's a little out of the way, you know, Woodbine and Danforth, but it's right on the subway line, so you make your way out there, and you can check their listings. They have all sorts of different things, community kind of music and professional bands and different things going on. We play out there because the owner, Tebebe Woldemichael, no relation to my sax player.
Oh, interesting. Not related.
Not related. It's just a common surname.
Okay.
I go back with Tebebe to my beginnings with that singer I was talking about, Aster Aweke. He was promoting her show. She came to Toronto to play the concert hall. You remember the venue, the concert hall, whatever it's called now.
Yeah, but it's a big hall.
That hall, we rented out the hall, and I ended up playing that show with Aster, and it was the first show that I played with her, and it's the reason she hired me into her band for international touring. And he was the promoter on that concert. So we've been friends since then, you know, and we have this long-standing connection. So I'm happy to sort of make his place our home base for Barnes and Woldemichael.
And it's great for you to just play with the food, with the aroma. Everything about it is a good venue for this music.
Yeah,
right?
It's the vibe, you know, and so the community comes out, members of the community, Ethiopian community come out, you know, they want to hear their music, they come out to hear it, and it's sort of in the community that way.
Yeah. Now, you've played pretty much every venue in Toronto, right? Do you have any favorite clubs?
Favorite clubs? Wow. Oh, gosh. What am I going to say about that? I've had some crazy wild times at the Reservoir Lounge, you know, for like, you got to say.
I do remember you actually drumming and singing at the Reservoir Lounge 20 years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of things happen. Gosh, but like clubs that are open today, right now, the Jazz Bistro is a pleasure to play, you know.
And you used to play the Top of the Senator before that.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
That's right, you know. I just like playing all the time. All the clubs are nice to play. What can I say? You know, Hughes Room's a nice concert venue. It's not, more of a concert venue than a club.
Great sight lines.
Yeah, you know.
Lulu Lounge, great vibe.
Lulu Lounge. Let's talk about Lulu Lounge. Exactly. Thank you. I mean, that's a lovely place. I've had so many good times there playing and just hanging out.
Yeah.
Seriously great.
At the Home Smith Bar at the Old Mill, nice and small, intimate.
You know, the stone castle of jazz, you know.
Yeah. the Hogwarts of bebop. and of course the Rex Hotel, because you're going to play to all your peers.
It's wide open. You can play loud, play soft, play anything. Maybe people are listening, maybe they're not. But it's like a tavern, you know.
I'm glad you remind me of the Reservoir Lounge, because that was the old days when I first saw you there, and they were crazy parties.
Crazy times, yeah, fun times, party times.
Well, you're at the Jazz Bistro coming up, and this is going to be a really exciting thing to have Ethiopian jazz, kind of world music meets jazz, in this fancy restaurant.
Different flavor for the club, you know, be a different thing, and nice for the Ethiopian community to be able to, you know, bring their music into another place instead of just their own restaurants and concerts, you know. So that's nice, spreading out that way.
Now, do you guys have plans to make a recording soon?
I'm glad you asked. Yes. So it's in process. The album is in process. Part of it is done, and just carrying on very slowly, going about it. I'm producing it, so I'm taking my time.
Who's on the record?
It's Tyler Imond is playing bass. Jeremy Ledbetter is on
Fearless keyboard player.
The Super Jeremy. Yeah. Germa's on sax. We have Alexander Brown doing a little bit of trumpet work, sort of XX trumpet work. What else? In the future, there's still more tracks to be done. So we currently have Simon Abbott playing keyboards in the band, and I'll probably get him to do some work on it.
So it really is from all different countries, cultures. The band is made up of all kinds of different people.
Yeah, but we're keeping it really focused on the Ethiopian thing, though.
Right.
You know?
Musically, it's all about that.
Yeah. And so all the stories of the songs come from Ethiopian perspective.
Well, I can't wait to hear this record. Do you think it'll be out in 2020?
No. To be really honest, I think it's going to take longer than that. I'm famous for taking my time.
Hey, well, it worked on your records, right?
Right.
They're not throwaway records you made. You made really good records. So I guess you just got to spend a little extra time.
I just started making this happen, you know, and we're continuing to grow the band, playing in venues. And the problem is I write new materials better than the old material. They're like, well, I've already recorded the old material. Now what am I going to do?
Right. Well, I look forward to 2525 when I'm going to hear that record.
Yeah. March 12th at the Jazz Bistro, right? That's our next big hit.
I will see you March 12th.
Oh, fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
James. Pleasure.
Thank you, Daniel Barnes. What a guy. I am so glad to know him. I'm a big fan. And if you want to see him in action, Thursday the 12th, Jazz Bistro, you'll see his Ethiopian jazz.